All right, and welcome back to COINMUNITY Wednesdays. GM, COINMUNITY, so glad to see you again. For tonight's stream, we will be talking about the most recent market move on Bitcoin, where Bitcoin has reached 100K for the first time in history. For tonight's guests, we have Manman Cesar from Bitsquela and content creator Kristan to talk and guide us through what this historical milestone might mean for the markets, for market outlook, and why adoption of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is inevitable. So I'm so excited to have our guests for tonight to be able to discuss with our viewers and the community what this milestone means for the rest of the crypto community. First, let's introduce our speakers onto the show. So I'd like to bring up on stage Manman Cesar of Bitsquela. Manman, how are you doing over there? GM, and welcome to COINMUNITY Wednesdays. What a pleasure to have you with us tonight.
GM, everything's good naman. Nag-pull back si Bitcoin, but it's good pa rin. It's healthy. Yun.
So, Manman, yeah, I guess just some quick small talk, I guess, what are you super excited for going into Christmas season of this bull market?
Taking profit. Yeah, taking profit because it's nice to enjoy taking profit kasi a lot of people would want to just earn and they forget to take profit. So it's nice to take some of the profits and then give back to others like family ganon. Since it's Christmas season.
I agree with you 100%, especially now the vibes are so festive. So I guess it's going to be exciting to see how people will be using their market profits, their hard-earned gains, and giving that back to their community. So Manman, thank you so much. Our next guest for tonight is, you've probably seen him around crypto Twitter and some of your favorite platforms. And I'm super excited to, hear his insights as well on how Bitcoin reaching 100,000 US dollars is going to impact the markets, and all the newcomers who will be coming into crypto. So I'd like to bring up on stage Mr. Chris Tan. Chris, good evening and welcome. I'm glad you could join us so much, for today's COINMUNITY Wednesdays. How are you doing?
I'm good, Java. Thank you so much. Actually, better than maybe yesterday because Bitcoin's back at 98,000. So it's looking pretty good.
Right. Yeah. So I guess I'd also like to, thank everyone for tuning in again for this community Wednesdays, and yeah, as you mentioned, the market has, recovered a little bit and we're going to be seeing, maybe more action in the markets in the coming weeks. So again, I'd like to remind all of our viewers that you will be able to ask a community question during our community question segment later. And if your question is chosen, you'll be able to win a cash prize straight to your Coins verified wallet. And don't forget to stay tuned to our social media as we'll be having a 12 days of Christmas promo on coins.ph. So stay tuned for that and all of the mechanics for those promos to follow. Now, without further ado, Chris, let's begin with our Q&A for tonight on, Bitcoin hitting this historical milestone of $100,000 and the market outlook and why the adoption is inevitable. So I'll be flashing the questions on the screen for the audience to follow. So the first question for you guys is, so what does Bitcoin reaching $100,000 mean for the market? And what about for crypto adoption, including retail and institutional interest? So maybe for our order, Manman, you can go first, and then Chris, you can go after Manman and give some supplementary info.
Number one, the market is strong. So yeah, Bitcoin reaching 100K, it means that the market is stronger than ever. It's stronger than the last bull run, and what it means for the crypto adoption on the retail side. If you weren't a believer when it was like at around 5,000, 3,000, $10,000, I think you might want to believe at Bitcoin right now at 100,000 or 98,000 to be exact. And when it comes to institutional interest, with the recent launch of ETFs for Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think the interest is pretty high. A lot of institutions like MicroStrategy buying Bitcoin, and also a country bought Bitcoin and profited really, really big, right? So I guess it means that it boosted it boosted the retail and institutional interest because it just reached 100,000. Bitcoin is here to stay. Chris?
Yeah, well, I agree with everything he said. So that's pretty much a good summary of what's happening right now. You know what I like about the 100,000 mark? Everyone was thinking once it hits 100,000, people are gonna take profit and it's gonna collapse. That collapse did not happen, and as you can see now that the volatility has minimized compared to the last cycle and all other previous cycles. This is the effect of having the institutional market come into the Bitcoin space and the cryptocurrency space. Now, what's happening is actually, pag tinignan mo, when it hit 100,000, people are celebrating, but it's just like another ordinary day. Doesn't it feel like it? I don't know, man. Did you feel that? When it hit 100,000, we were all celebrating, but it was like, yeah, it's 100,000. It was almost like it was expected to happen, which is good because now psychologically people are thinking and know that the 100,000 mark for Bitcoin is undervalued even at this point. And I really expect that for December, we're probably gonna. I would dare say we could probably hit 120 to 125 before December's over.
That's a crazy prediction, Chris. But I'm sure everyone would love to hear and see 120,000 or $125,000 in Bitcoin. Makes the festive season even more festive for everyone. So thank you, Chris. Thank you, Man. For our next question, so I guess with so many people coming into the space, how can we, as people who have platforms, educate first timers who are thinking about trading crypto, especially now that the market has pumped so much? What are some of the ways we can do this best? So, Man, as a Bitcoin educator, how do you plan on educating first timers?
Especially, I think that the value of community right now, like joining the right community, is really, really it is needed to be done. Like join COINMUNITY, join Bitsquala's community, or just follow Kristan just to be involved in the space because if you don't really know what you're trying to enter, education is really the best entry point. So for me, how would I how would I teach like the newbies right now? Is just to try and absorb and and learn and don't jump in just yet. Don't jump in if you don't know what's happening. Right now everything is at all-time high. Right now everything is pumping. So right now everyone is posting profits. So you'd
Mhm.
get FOMO'd in. You'd get FOMO'd in from different crypto influencers, different crypto groups. So I suggest that you should try to join a community, ask the right people, such as Kristan. I think his DMs and comment sections are open for just the newbie questions. Also, you can DM me, you can DM people in the space, and we're pretty open when it comes to your questions. So yeah, I think to sum it all up, join community, follow Kristan, and check bitsquela.com.
Thank you so much. Yeah, community is so important, and as a community, we're all here to help each other, not to FOMO in the trading crypto and losing money that we can't afford to lose. So, Man, thank you, Chris. How about you as a creator? How are you planning to educate first timers in crypto?
Well, so there are two ways to go about it. The first one is you have to find out have they been trading already. For example, they trade stocks, okay, they trade forex, or they have experience with trading. If they have that, then did I freeze or okay? There, I'm back. I thought I froze. Anyway, okay, so if they're already trading, crypto is just another asset to be trading with. But the only difference is they have to be able to first learn the fundamental analysis of crypto because it's different than stocks or kaya commodities or even forex where you're relying on a lot of macroeconomic news. With crypto, you're not seeing income statements for some of these companies, nor are you seeing projections or who's managing it. You're looking at very different sets of qualitative information to be able to make a decision. Now, with regards to the technicals, the harder part is crypto is much more volatile than stocks and so much more volatile than currency trading. So, if you're going to get into crypto, I suggest that, and if you have trading experience, maybe start with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the least volatile of all of them and it's the most familiar. Now, whether you have trading experience or not, I'm going to go back to this one and say study Bitcoin first. Because if you don't have trading experience and you don't understand crypto, you will not have a good foundation of what cryptocurrencies are and what the blockchain is and Web3 is if you don't start with Bitcoin. So learn about Bitcoin, and of course, co-promotion. The best way to learn about Bitcoin is Bitskwela, di ba? So it is so easy to figure out what Bitcoin is. Pag alam mo na what Bitcoin is, then and only then can you actually go through the different blockchains like Ethereum, and then you go down that rabbit hole. So that's how you create a strong foundation in terms of getting into crypto.
Chris, thank you so much. And yeah, I agree. No, start with Bitcoin, start with those foundations before you venture into anything else. Because as you mentioned, even if Bitcoin is the least volatile, it's still the most volatile asset class. So, man, Chris, thank you for your input on first timers and educating them. So, our next question would be, so Chris, now that we're educating them, what are some of the tools or practices that these beginners should adopt to manage their crypto investments effectively? So Man, how about you? What are some of those tools and practices you'd recommend?
Number one is try to assess your risk, because it differs from person to person. If Chris can lose $10,000, I can't lose that. Other people can't lose that. So maybe just try to assess your risk, and that's where you start. And then when you start, try to use DCA, or dollar cost averaging. I truly believe that if you don't know how to really trade in crypto, buying and holding just Bitcoin is really, really beneficial for you. It would diversify you, and at the same time, it's not too volatile. And just to explain, pala, dollar cost averaging is just putting aside, let's just say, 2%, 3% of your hard-earned money weekly or monthly towards buying Bitcoin. And that would be even if it's 100K, 300K, 400K Bitcoin price, you just average it out. So that's what DCA is. And I think it's really a foolproof strategy on winning when it comes to trading. Because you seasoned traders can do it, newbies can do it. It's as easy as just connecting your payment methods to coins and just buying the coin every month, every week, or every day. So I think that's one of the best practices that I can recommend right now.
Thank you. I agree with that. Cost averaging is simple but effective, no? Chris, how about you? Tools and practices for beginners.
Okay, so the most important thing I tell everyone that gets into crypto is first get Bitcoin. As a matter of fact, I don't normally recommend other cryptocurrencies to anyone that does not have Bitcoin. So whenever I get asked, oh, aside from Bitcoin because it's too expensive, can you recommend other coins? I go, no, I recommend Bitcoin. And then they go, yeah, but Bitcoin's, oh, so high right now. How much more can it go? Unlike other altcoins, where it could 10x. Actually, what they forget is Bitcoin can and will 10x from where it's at today. And the difference is with Bitcoin and other altcoins, Bitcoin, I can tell you, I know it will 10x with certainty. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Unlike altcoins, where, yeah, it could 10x, but it could also go to zero. So there's no certainty. So I always tell people, you have the best tool you can have to get into the cryptocurrency market is buy Bitcoin first. So if I, like, say for example, somebody has 100,000 pesos, I would recommend put at least 70 to 80,000 of that money in Bitcoin, and in the 20,000, yeah, and you can play with that. You can actually trade with that, buy altcoins with that. You can do whatever you want. And even if you lose it, it's okay, because Bitcoin, once it moves, it's going to cover all of those losses. And it's such a good buffer to have when you have Bitcoin as your your the wall behind you holding you up. So that's my strategy, and that's what I recommend for everyone. Make sure to have Bitcoin, and if you do, then you can trade, or you can just hold other altcoins, and be a position trader and wait for it to pump.
Chris, thank you so much. I agree. No, Bitcoin is really that foundation, and it's not a matter of if; it's a matter of when. No, and that's a topic for tonight. Why adoption is inevitable. So, Chris, man, thank you so much. I guess for our next question, no, let me pull it up here on screen. So, what should traders, whether seasoned or new, keep in mind during this point in the market cycle? No? So we're probably in the middle of a bull run. What would you want to advise those traders or investors, new or old? So man, how about you?
Just like what I said earlier, try to take profit. And because everything is going high nga, and you forgot to ano people tend to just be invested na parang tataas pa yan, it will go up to the moon ganun. But you forgot to take profit. So minsan na babalik mo lang din sa market yung earnings mo. So that's not nice. So always try to take profit even if it's just 5%, 10% or 20%. Try to take profit. Don't be too greedy because we can't really predict what could happen. Okay? When it comes to the prices, since sabi nga ni Chris, it's really really volatile. So we can't know for sure if tomorrow, next week, 2 years from now, if the prices will go up or will go down. No one can actually predict that. But yeah, ayun. I think that's my sentiment right now.
Man, thank you. Yeah, no shame in taking profits. Chris, how about you? What's your advice for seasoned traders or new traders?
So my advice for seasoned traders, actually seasoned or new traders, is a little bit different from man's, because if you don't need the money, if I were you, convert it right away to Bitcoin. So whatever profit you have,
Ah,
convert it to Bitcoin. That way, at least you're holding the value of the profit you made.
mm,
So in the long term,
yeah.
unless you need the money, if like let's say you're trading and that's the income, the trading income is the income you need to spend, then spend it. But if it's money you're just accumulating and you don't need it, whatever spare you have, convert it immediately to Bitcoin. That
Yeah.
way, all the hard work that you did to make that money is now going to allow Bitcoin to make the money work for you. So
Ah,
that's how you have that passive income growing na, that leveraged income. So that's what I would recommend. Also, I want to also tell people that when you're trading, um, if with cryptocurrency, you don't need to use leverage. As a matter of fact, I know quite a few people that came from the forex field, where they use 250 to 200 to 1,000x. I actually use 1,000x leverage. I just did it kanina. But with crypto, I actually go spot trading with crypto. Kasi nga, it's so volatile, you don't need to put leverage to be able to make a good sum of money per day. So that's what I would recommend. What else? Yeah, that's it. Just make sure you do your technical analysis and don't overtrade. A lot of people say they have the Superman
mhm.
syndrome. Once you're getting good trades, what happens? You keep going back, and then suddenly, let's say you sold high, and then it goes higher. You FOMO and you buy higher, and then it drops, and then wala na, sayang. All that hard work, it's gone. So when you're out of a trade, you made money, get out, stay out, because I guarantee you, with a lot of the altcoins, it will go back down eventually, and then you can enter again. And when you're trading pala, another one, let's say you have a trading budget of say 100,000 pesos. If you have a trading budget of 100,000 pesos, you go in with trades at 20,000 pesos. So that's 20% of your stack. You can go in there and then allocate it that way, and then always leave another 40%. So you can do three trades in that case, and then leave another 40% in case there's a massive drop, or on a position where you can actually get a good entry to increase your position size. That's it.
Chris, thank you so much. Yeah, as you mentioned, that minimizing of leverage, and using spot, very underrated. And don't try to play the hero, because if you try to play the hero when you're on a roll, chances are you'll risk more than what you can lose. So
Yeah.
Man and Chris, thank you for your input, no, for advice for seasoned or new traders, no. So for our last set question, and don't forget, guys, we are taking community questions, no. And I guess for our next question, if you were to choose between buying, selling, or holding Bitcoin, which one would it be and why? So, Man, how about you? Buy, sell, or hold Bitcoin?
Personally, right now, I'm still buying and holding. I think Chris can agree with that. Yes, I've taken some profits, but I wouldn't really see myself selling it all at the moment. Right now, accumulating, like buying every single week or every single month, and also holding the Bitcoin is what I can suggest. Because yes, it's high, but back to what Chris just said, it could still 10x. The question is not if, the question is when. So I do believe that it could still 10x, and I could still hold it for like 10 years, 20 years, and I would still be happy.
Thank you. Chris, how about you? Buy, sell, or hodl your Bitcoin?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious what I'm about to say. Buy and hodl, of course. Buy and hodl. I bought at 98. I bought just recently. I actually bought a few times at 98. I bought at 96. So anything below 100,000, I'm buying. And I haven't sold any bitcoins as of the moment. I don't need to. And
Mhm.
I stake quite a few bitcoins. So I earn from the staking, that's what I'll use to spend. At this point, because I really look at Bitcoin as undervalued at $100,000, and by next year, I made that bold prediction. I'm sticking by it. I think by the last quarter of next year, we should see Bitcoin at $250,000 to $300,000 per Bitcoin. And for those that are saying that, wow, that's insane, that's not gonna happen. Remember, just a few months ago, we were at 50,000 and we doubled in a couple of months. Actually, if I remember correctly, we were at 68,000 when in November, and then just shot up all the way to 90. All right, that's a 50% growth in a month. So can you imagine double? Now we're at double at in December. So it's not unreasonable to see Bitcoin going from 100 to 200,000, because there is I look at Bitcoin as being in escape velocity already. It's broken through the gravitational pull of the markets, and now it's just boom. It's like a rocket. Why? It's this: the higher the price of Bitcoin, the the longer the candles will be. So that means that a 10% jump, kasi when it was at $10,000, a 10% jump is $1,000. But when you're at $100,000, a 10% jump is $10,000. So as a matter of fact, the jumps are gonna just seem like, oh, it just goes from 100 to 110 like that in a day. It could do that, and you're seeing that it went from 103 back to 95 in a few hours, and then back up to 98. We just jumped 5,000 in like less than a day. So the $10,000 candles are gonna be happening more often, and then before you know it, once we hit the 200,000 mark, the $20,000 candles are going to be appearing. And then it just keeps, the momentum starts getting faster and faster as the price goes up.
Chris, thank you so much. Yeah, very exciting, to have this stage of the market right now. So I guess what we can do now as well is to start moving on to choosing some of our questions from the community. But before that, I guess I'd like to plug again to the community that we will be having a 12 days of Christmas promo series on coins.ph. So stay tuned to our social media, and we're so excited to see all of the promos and everyone in the coin community, enjoying with us during these festive holiday season. I guess we will be choosing our first coin unity question. And I guess we have a special guest as well who'll be joining us up on the panel. So I'd like to bring up our own CEO, Wei. Good evening. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. Awesome to finally have you on
What's up, guys?
Community Wednesdays. How are you doing?
Doing well.
What's up, Way?
What's up, Chris? Hey, man.
All right. So for our first community question, I guess this one comes from our Facebook Live. So this one, comes from Chris Edgren, and they ask, so why is the adoption of Bitcoin seen as inevitable in the future? So I guess for our order, maybe we can have Man, Chris, and then Wade to give the ultimate say on, their answer to the question. So Man, why is the adoption of Bitcoin inevitable for you?
I mean, 2009 was the creation of Bitcoin. It was like 15 years ago. It was just less than $1, and now it's 100,000. So Bitcoin reaching 100,000, it just cements the fact that Bitcoin is another form of storage of value, and Bitcoin is a tool that we can use in order to make profits out of. So I don't really see any reason how Bitcoin would fail to be adopted in the normal sense, in the Web 2 sense. And then I do believe that we would use Bitcoin in a lot of other things, not just trading it, not just for storage of value. We can still use Lightning Network as a payment system. So there's a lot of use cases, not just for Bitcoin, but for the blockchain itself. So I don't really see any reason why it wouldn't be adopted.
Thank you. Chris, how about you? Why do you think Bitcoin adoption is inevitable?
Right now, what you're seeing with the global, the social political situation all over the world, is why Bitcoin will be inevitably adopted by all countries. I think we saw that in the Ukraine war when the U.S. confiscated Russia's dollar reserves, and then you realize you don't really hold your money. No country really holds their assets because that can be turned off at any time. And with that knowledge and with that awareness now, I think people and countries and companies are now seeing Bitcoin as a safe haven having full custody of that asset and securing the value of that asset. And I think MicroStrategy laid it out really well for everyone to follow. That's the blueprint for companies. And El Salvador has laid out the blueprint for countries to follow to be able to have Bitcoin in their reserve assets. And that's, I think, going to happen also with the U.S. Economy and the U.S. government putting the Bitcoin in its reserve asset as a strategic asset. And once that happens, that's it. Game over. It's gonna be every country for himself. They're gonna all want to be able to get Bitcoin once the U.S. Gets in on Bitcoin.
Chris, thank you. And Wei, how about you? Why do you think the adoption of Bitcoin is inevitable?
Yeah, we've been on a slow march for the last, like, I think almost 15 years now for Bitcoin. And what's really interesting is that pretty much, it's been a bottoms up movement, right? People and this is like the first asset class that have come from bottom up. And then I think what's really interesting is that when something sort of arises from bottom up, and you've had so many different institutions, governments that have basically tried to shut Bitcoin down along the way, and then none of them have succeeded so far. So I think it's just this barrage of like this bottom up. It's almost like a, and then from in my perspective, you look at just the history of the world, like when something is bottom up and even when you try to kill it so many times you can't kill it. I mean, this thing is just inevitable. And you basically come to a point of where, like, I think, was it last week or this week, where the U.S. Fed with Jerome Powell even started calling Bitcoin digital gold. So I think sort of, once you made it to sort of the hallowed halls of the U.S. Federal Reserve, and then they've acknowledged it as digital gold, right? Then I don't. I mean, I don't know. There's nothing else for me to say in terms of like the but I'll comment a little bit because I saw you guys had a really heated chat about sort of like, are you hodling or not?
Yeah.
And I just want to sort of like, like give my two Bitcoin, give my two
Receive
sats. Right?
Satoshis.
I'll give you guys a little bit of sats here. Drop some sats here for everybody because like if you look at sort of like doing. But I think he's a little bit crazy. But I think just sort of like just rationally looking at it, I mean, if it is digital gold, then the global market cap for gold is maybe somewhere around $1 trillion, call it, right, based on sort of the price multiplied by the known gold reserve that's in the world, right? And then and I think if you look at Bitcoin, we're at $2 trillion, right? So I think like in your mind, you're like this thing could go like just is sort of the similar like status as gold, and you're looking at this thing going another 10x. So sort of like so in my mind, sort of like like in this market, we probably I don't know, right? Like seriously, you don't know because that's like, but I do think in this market, I do like my original sort of thesis is that like Bitcoin's like every all-time high is like basically 3 to 4 times the high, and that's been sort of the trend the last like almost 4 cycles, right? Going from like I think a couple of thousand to like 17,000 in 2017, and then going from 17,000 to like almost 70,000 in 2021. And then this cycle, I originally thought maybe 3x 70,000, right? Then we get to like 20, 200,000, 250,000. But I think the exogenous factor that came up on the election, and then he wants to build a Bitcoin reserve, right? So there's like, so I don't know where that I don't know where the cap is, right?
Yeah.
Because we're playing with different, like we're basically playing different money. Like we're like in the main, like what do you call it? We're like in the big leagues now, right? Bitcoin's been sort of, we've been playing the minor, like if you play baseball, we've been playing in the minor leagues, right? And we finally arrived at the major league, right? And this thing is a fucking superstar, right? And then this thing's gonna win its fight in the major leagues as well, right? So where is that gonna be? I think gold is a good comparable. And then like I joke around like is that if Bitcoin hits $1 million, then right, then we're gonna start paying people in sats, and that makes sense. So that's my two sats.
Wait, thank you so much. And Chris Edgren on our Facebook Live, thank you for that wonderful question. So I'll be choosing another question from Facebook Live, and then same order for our community question segment. So this one comes from Justin Carl Esquadron Nunez, and they ask, what ripple effects might Bitcoin's price at $100,000 have on the broader cryptocurrency market and industry? So really more of an adoption question now that we've hit this psychological milestone of a price number. So Man, how about you?
Yeah, honestly, we all know that Bitcoin is just the front runner when it comes to cryptocurrencies. So once Bitcoin, actually, since Bitcoin reached 100K or more than 100K, it means that other coins will start getting noticed, such as Ethereum. And that's the second thing. And then other people would try to buy other coins like altcoins, and then the smart money concept will move on to the altcoins. Basically the bigger you need to basically think of it as if that more gains will be made in altcoins currently right now, as I can say it, in the market sentiment. And the ripple effect is that Bitcoin is legit, so other coins should be legit, like Ethereum. I don't want to mention other coins, but yeah, I think it just cements the fact that crypto in general is real and it's here to stay.
It's here to stay. Thank you, Man. Chris, how about you? What ripple effects might we be seeing?
Well, we know that Bitcoin's the big brother in this industry. It's the most dominant cryptocurrency, and it stands on its own. And the beauty of Bitcoin hitting 100,000 is this: that alts, like Man said, nga, always follows where Bitcoin goes. And the difference is when Bitcoin moves, alts move a lot faster because it's a lot smaller, obviously. So for the ones that I know they want to get a higher gain in this cycle, yeah, you can go do the alts. But if you're going to do the alts, again, the higher the gain, there's also higher volatility, which could also lead to higher losses. So make sure to always have your Bitcoin and buy Bitcoin, hold it, and then you can do your trades where it's a little bit riskier, but you can have a lot of gains. I want to add actually that was interesting that when we were at the coins party and Wei was saying, "Oh, we'll see you guys at 100,000." It was at 98,000 that night. I remember, and then that morning I woke up, saw 100,000, and as much as we were celebrating, I don't know what were you doing, Wei, when it hit 100,000. Did you just like? Did you even? Were you even surprised? I wasn't even surprised, right?
This
I
is it's
and
like the most. This is the most muted 100K in the history of like, it's just like, okay, go back to
yeah,
sleep. Bye. See you guys.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I remember
But
in the
I,
last
I think
cycle.
it's a bigger surprise for the non-coiner audience, but
Hmm,
I think for people within the community, so I think this thing is already baked in.
yeah.
Just so it's just like, oh, what it's like a non-event. But I do think at the end of the day, people still like big round numbers. So I do think that for the non-coiners out there, this whoa, wow, that's a lot of zeros.
Yeah, and the thing is, now people are buying, right?
Yep.
Isn't it interesting way?
Yep. Hmm.
When the price goes up, more non-coiners become coiners, right?
Coiners. Yep. Mhm.
Yep. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I guess, and then Wei, so I guess for you, so maybe what's the biggest ripple effect or main ripple effect that you might see for this psychological big milestone price?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you have big round numbers, you're gonna have retail audience coming in. I think we saw that in our trading platform. When Bitcoin was rallying 10% a day, like in November, we didn't see that many people coming in. But actually, during the week when Bitcoin was actually, hovering at 100K, hitting 100K, we actually see a lot more audience coming through. And I think that's sort of like that tells me, the people that left the market a couple of years ago, for whatever reason, are starting to come back. And I think that attributes to sort of like I think what we're calling dino coins kind of rallying too, like things there hasn't been any action, like the XRPs, the Cardanos of the world, right? Like things that are like the 2016, 17 ilk.
Mm.
We actually started seeing in prices in those, and I think and I think like one thing that I've always been one comment that I've always liked is that in the crypto world, price leads the narrative. It's really know, like, hey, well, oh my gosh, Ripple's been doing all this building. They're building an XLP ledger, they're building a stable coin. Wow. Like, but they've been doing that for like 2 or 3 years. Nobody cared because the price wasn't moving, right? But when the price is moving, you're like, oh, that justifies the movement. This thing's going to $10, So I like for me, it's just sort of like I think we're going to see a lot more excitement across the board. And then echoing what Chris, I hate agreeing with you, but be like, guys, like, make money, like know when it's speculation, know when it's a long-term investment. And I think in this world, I consider the big three, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, as more long-term investments. And I consider sort of personally at this stage, everybody else is sort of still kind of speculative in its sort of, thesis. So stack as much, like, if you make money, like keep what you need, and stack Bitcoin. I think that's sort of like the reasonable, that's a reason. I think that's like a reasonable take.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Wei, and thank you, Justin and Carl Nunez, for that question. So I guess for our third community question, I'd like to pick this one as well from our Facebook Live. So Joya asks, for everyone here, what do you think is the most common misconception about Bitcoin, that still prevents people from adopting it, especially for the Filipinos, who think that money is still very taboo. So Man, what do you think is the most common misconception about Bitcoin that you still hear today?
Number one, Bitcoin is still a scam for them, for other people, just because that some of we all know that the earlier use of Bitcoin is not really good in terms of morality, right? It was used in deep web. So I think because of that connotation, some people and some scammers still use the Bitcoin thing, even if it's not even crypto related. Some of the scams right now are buy this, buy this. This is related to Bitcoin. That's why it creates the sort of mentality that Bitcoin is still a scam. But it's not necessarily a scam because it reached 100,000. I mean, there's a lot of institutions right now. And another thing would be misinformation and miseducation. there's a lot of people in the space that still spreads misinformation, not just about Bitcoin, but when terms of the legitimacy of a project. Let's just say that there are a lot of projects right now, may it be international or local, that still is promoted heavily in social media, but it's a scam. So that affects the narrative, the whole narrative when it comes to Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general. So I do think that that's the most common thing: misinformation and then just scams altogether.
Man, thank you. So scams, a lot of people still think of Bitcoin that way. Chris, how about you? Most common misconception.
The no, there's so many actually. Let me see. The one that I'm thinking of right now is that it's a Ponzi scheme. So I hear that a lot. That I have friends that still tell me that it's still a Ponzi scheme, and people are only the price is only going up because that's what people are willing to pay for it. But if it wasn't for everyone else jumping in the bandwagon and some other sucker buying it at 100,000, it wouldn't be worth can I swear? Oh, it wouldn't be worth crap. I don't want to swear. So that's a common misconception that I hear about it. But at the end of the day, for me, the whole world, in terms of value, it's dependent on the value people place on whatever that asset is. And the asset, the Bitcoin's key proposition is its scarcity. There is no other asset in the world that has the properties of Bitcoin. The scarcity, number one, the borderless and the sovereign the sovereign trait of Bitcoin, where if you hold the Bitcoin, nobody can ever take it away from you. It cannot be confiscated. And the fact that it's digital, I can carry it all over the world. So as an asset, that's what makes it valuable compared to all other assets in the world.
Chris, thank you so much. Wait, how about you? I guess what is the one misconception that you still hear about Bitcoin to this day?
Oh, I get this all the time. It's too expensive. I can't afford one Bitcoin. I'm too poor to buy one Bitcoin. And I'm just like, you can buy just like 10 pesos or 100 pesos. Here, let me send you worth of Bitcoin. Bam. Oh, wow. You mean I don't have to just buy one Bitcoin? I can actually just buy it in like peso terms or dollar terms? I'm like, yes. Here's another 50 peso worth of Bitcoin. Oh my gosh, I can accumulate it little by little by little by little. So yeah, it's like you don't have to own a whole Bitcoin. You can actually own 50 pesos of Bitcoin, 100 pesos of Bitcoin. And then I come across with another experience where I was like basically going around like I forget, it was like last year, or it was earlier this year. I was going around a coffee shop just sort of like educating people, I'm actually giving people Bitcoin. Okay, like you want
Wow.
not that much, 100 pesos at a time, right? And then I keep track of people. And then I hit up some of these people. I'd be like, yeah, did you hold on to your Bitcoin? You basically doubled your money, right? They're like, buy groceries. I want to bang my head against the table. Literally, I'm like, did you like? No, I'm sorry, not groceries, like cake or something that's something
Right.
that this person did not need, right? I'm just like, oh, hold on to that sucker, man. This is like your piggy bank. Don't smash the piggy bank, right? Just because it's up. The other one is like, don't smash the piggy bank because you're up like 20%. Like, I think this is not the asset for it. There's other stuff that if you're up 20%, you can smash
Yep.
the piggy bank on. This is not the asset you smash the piggy bank on when you're up 20%. So I think those two misconceptions I want to just sort of like, something that I've been banging my head against the table a lot on.
All right. So Joya, thank you for your question. And Wei, thank you for your input. I agree that you don't have to own a whole Bitcoin. Fractional owning is what makes Bitcoin so powerful. So we'll take one last community question. And I guess I also like to shout out Kuku who's in the crowd tonight, one of our dearest coins affiliates. So hello, Kuku, nice to see you and the whole coin community tonight. So for our last community question, this one would be a good closing community question. So this one comes from John Arjon. And I guess this would be a good inspirational message for people who want to take their first jump into Bitcoin. So, what advice would you give to an investor who is just starting to consider Bitcoin as part of their crypto portfolio? So, maybe we can close off the community question segment with an inspirational message for people who are still scared to try. So, Man, what message might you have?
Number one, educate yourself, read the white paper so you would know what you're getting yourself into. And then number two, start small. Start trying 1% of your portfolio, 0.5%, and then gradually increasing it once you get comfortable with the space. It it doesn't need to be one Bitcoin, it doesn't need to be 10 Bitcoins. You just need some sort of an exposure first. And then once you rode your first bull run, you'll get addicted to it, basically. So just try to educate and then try it try just dipping your toes onto the water, just tiny bit. Yeah.
Just try. So, Man, thank you. Chris, what advice would you give to someone who wants to get started?
Yeah, I get worried with Man's advice. I thought he was talking about a casino or something like that. I'm totally kidding. I'm
Guys your
totally
bets.
kidding.
Guys your bets.
Right, exactly. It's like try it a little bit. When you make money, then you can add a lot more, right? No, but yeah, for me, at the end of the day, right now, I'm just telling, similar to what Man's doing. I'm just telling everyone, just put money in, and trust me, the smartest people are already in it. I have friends that are traditional banking, and in traditional banking and in the financial industry, in the stocks and everything. And I told them, listen, I know you're into the stock market. Just try putting 10% of your portfolio in Bitcoin, and I'm actually willing to bet that 10% is going to perform much better than the 90% of your portfolio. I mean, at the end of the day, one thing that I always remind everyone that doesn't know Bitcoin or is not convinced that Bitcoin is a great asset to invest in. Hey, listen, throughout the entire history of Bitcoin, it is the fastest growing asset ever. Nothing else has grown in value as fast as Bitcoin to date. Nothing even comes close. And I've actually done the math. I added all the other assets combined. Does not even catch up to Bitcoin on its own. That's how fast Bitcoin's growing. And it's not going to slow down. I actually think it's going to speed up from this point onwards. So that's my take on it.
Chris, thank you so much. I agree. It's only going to go higher and it's only going to get faster. Wei, how about you? What's your advice to someone who wants to get started with their crypto journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think just long term holding is one thing, but I think if you don't want to put that much money in from day one, what I would recommend is basically dollar cost average in. Just be like, I think one of the cool things about Bitcoin is that it actually teaches you the patience and the discipline of what it takes to actually become an investor. And it is something that because I think there's two types of way that there's because when most people think about investing, they think about saving. But that's actually very different, right? I think saving is actually putting your money in a bank and then getting interest on it. That's okay because but actually investing is actually taking your money and putting it into an asset that will appreciate over it, like in time, right? And I know that people here in the Philippines, we don't have that much access to like U.S. stocks, but Bitcoin is probably like the next best thing because I think it's actually better than some of the stocks that's actually traded. Not to crap on our own exchange, but better than some of the stuff that's traded on our own exchange, and it's probably better than 99% of things that's traded on the U.S. exchange, right? So the best way to think about this is actually how do you have the discipline of basically continue to accumulate Bitcoin over the next 6 months, 6 years, right? Like one thing that I've done is like I got three daughters, right? And I've basically been buying Bitcoin on their behalf, for the last 5 years, and hopefully when they turn, and then because they're gonna get old soon, they're gonna get to college, right? And then at some point when they become adults, I'm gonna give them that Bitcoin portfolio that I'm building for them, right? And that's the discipline, and then that's discipline, right? But the thing is that you have to have some kind of targets, and then that's like the piggy bank that I will never break, right? Because that's for number one, that's for number two, and that's for number three, right? I ain't touching that stuff. But the thing is but you have to have the discipline of continuing to put money in without getting distracted. I think, and then if you look at sort of the history of the world, where how people get rich, dollar cost average, and into basically a set. And I think that's sort of, and then have the discipline of doing that over a long period of time. That would be my advice to investors. You don't have to start big. I mean, but you can. You don't have to. I'll take it this way. You don't have to start small, and then if you keep doing that over time, I think you will come to love your Bitcoin, and you'll never want to be a part way with it. no matter how much you love your daughters.
Hey, Wei, by any chance, are you open for adoption? Adopting a fourth child? I swear to God, I'm sure there are a lot of people in the community who are like, adopt me. Yeah, I'll line up, okay?
I mean, I do have 3 daughters, but I don't have a son, so you know.
Yeah, hey, there you go.
I can be it. I can be it. I'll be willing.
Yeah, John or John, thank you so much for that question. And I guess, to add to what Wei said, consistency is important when you're, in the crypto journey. So I guess I'd also like to plug just one last time that we do have a 12 days of crypto Christmas promo upcoming. So stay tuned to our social media pages on coins.ph for the full mechanics of those. And we do have a prize pool of 7 million pesos worth of tokens, NFTs, and more from December 14th to 25. So do check the Coins blog and our social media for full details, and let's stay hyped on the road to, an even higher price target on Bitcoin and a festive Christmas for us all. Now, I guess, thank you, Wei, Chris, and Manman, for joining us tonight. I know, Wei, you might have a message also to the community prepared. So I guess, Wei, thank you so much again for joining us on the show tonight. And yeah, what words of, I guess, what words would you like to give to the COINMUNITY tonight?
I think like I gotten really popular on social media the last couple of days because some of the comments that I was making on LinkedIn and on because I thought that, but I didn't know that the comments was that much newsworthy. I was basically just trying to be your friendly local troll, and then but I guess it's tough being hide as an internet troll when you're also the CEO of Coins. So I kind of want to give like a little bit of a background about what happened, and then I kind of want to dive into sort of like and I think the team's actually got a chart prepared that I'm going to show later as well. So there's I think 2 weeks ago from like basically like friends of the program, right? We're pretty good. We've been supporting them. They've been supporting us from BitPeanuts, basically publishing our one of our subsidiary, Bitor Inc.'s 2023 financials, where it's pretty basically, and I'm okay with that, right? Because I think like if people can get to the financials and want to publish it, it's fine. But where I took issues with, I think, is actually with the headlines, where they basically said Coins had a $2.5 billion $2.5 billion deficit, and then the tokens aren't fully reserved, right? And I took an issue to that, and I was like, well, people are going to read it, and then because we provide a comment, I took 2 issues with that. I think one is I think the headline was actually misleading and then actually misinforms the audience about sort of nature of the audit financials. And then secondly, I think I was like a little bit ticked off because they've probably been preparing that for a while, but they never actually came to me for comments. And I think you've always in journalism, if you're going to publish something that's going to make someone look bad, you usually go to them for comments, right? Even at like the last minute, you give them like, even if you want to give me 30 minutes, or I can walk through people sort of like what that is. So, but because we had to reach out to them to ask them, and be like, because we heard of that, through whatever sources, and I was like, well, like here's my comment, right? But the thing is that we weren't able to sort of talk about it at all. And then the comments was more of like a corporate. It was like a very corporate comment. It wasn't some stuff that I can talk about, right? So so that's one. And I think I just want to sort of state the facts, right? Because in the audit financials, it basically said, oh, the 2.5 billion, first of all, is a very misleading number. Because I think if you're in accounting and you're in finance, you know that that's the cumulative loss, right? So the company since 2014 when it was founded have lost that much money, right? But then the equity deficit is actually very different from the cumulative loss, right? The equity deficit, I think, was like 600 million pesos. And then what we did is the parent company of Bitor basically put in about 1.2 billion pesos of equity injection in 2024, and there's actually in page 2 of the notes that, right, and then they basically said the board of directors and the auditor signed off on those equity injections, and then we'll continue to monitor the equity position of the company. If it ever falls below sort of the regulatory requirement, we're going to take notice, and then we'll notify the BSP as well. So basically, first of all, that quote unquote equity deficit was already plugged by the time that reports came out, because otherwise the auditors wouldn't be releasing the report, and then BSP would take away my license, right? So sort of all of those things have been resolved, and I think that caused a big brouhaha in that basically a lot of my partners started calling and be like, oh my gosh, you guys are bankrupt. I'm like, no, we're not bankrupt. One, two, we're not insolvent, right? Because one thing they also did not report, they're like, oh, these guys have like 200 million pesos of deficit because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I'm like, no, we're not insolvent, because even if you go look at the balance sheet a little bit further, there's like 355 million pesos of like cash and cash equivalent, right? There's Bitcoin on the balance sheet, company balance sheet. There's Ethereum on the balance sheet. There's USDT and USDC on the balance sheet. And then there's actual cash on the balance sheet. And all of those things added up to like $350 million of excess cash that the company has on the balance sheet to be able to cover whatever the deficit that they mentioned was, right? So it's not, first of all, it's not bankrupt. It's not insolvent. There's cash on the balance sheet. And then the equity deficit was plugged, right? So I think both of those things, I just felt like it wasn't a fair and balanced coverage. And first of all, it was because I think one of the things that because for me, right, like I don't know, I'm 45 years old today, right? I've been working in finance since 2001, right? I've been CFO of public companies listed in the US. I've been CFO of finance. I kind of know how exchange runs, right? And sort of like there's always timing gaps, right? And sort of like, you know, like if the auditors come and they look at your balance sheet at like 9 a.m. and then you take a screen capture at 9 p.m., basically during that 12 hours, there's going to be a timing mismatch, right? If like for one of the tokens that they said was like, okay, hey, guess what? If the user just sent out like, you know, like 2 million pesos of YGG, that's kind of been sent out. It's not being recorded, but the user balance may still be here, right? Or if the user sent money in, it's recorded, but it actually hasn't hit our wallet yet, right? So I think there's always timing mismatches on these things. And then it's actually to blow that out of proportion, I just felt like was kind of very uneducated, I'll be honest with you. And then they could have asked me, like, why did you have this misbalance? I'm like, okay, let me walk through each one of you. This one was at 10 a.m. This was at 10:30. There's basically money going out. So it wasn't on balance sheet. It wasn't in our wallet, but it's actually on our balance sheet still, right? So anyhow, so I think so I thought I was misinformed. And I think the last one, which was a little bit tricky because there's still an active criminal investigation, is that we had an incident end of I think in November of 23 with regards to sort of, you know, XRP, and then been trying to come out and, you know, talk about it just because, but the thing is I can't because it's still an active criminal investigation, right? And then and one of the things is that we basically, I think, have about 5 million XRPs that's been frozen on other exchanges, right? And that's sort of the as at the end of 2023, right? And then all of these exchanges were in active communication with them, with law enforcement officials. These are not, you know, money that thieves took off into the identified balances locked on exchanges. Most of them are generally friendly, and they have a process that you have to go through to recover these, right? Since 12/31/2023, we recovered, I think, a whole bunch of them. I would say, like, you know, probably we're going to get, you know, most of them back, maybe end of this year, maybe sort of beginning of next year, right? Irregardless of the recovery, we've identified that. Number two, both the company's cash reserve as well as sort of the parent co cash reserve has fully sort of, you know, more than cover, like, you know, like 10x cover, whatever that deficit is, right? Just rise in XRP prices. And I think the Bator assets as a whole, we've done really well this year. So we've actually had an increase in terms of our own asset size. You know, we had like the portfolio that's gone up in value. So I think we have more than covered anything that's needed for withdrawal. So yes, we do have a portion of the XRP that's basically still locked on other exchanges. And I think we, you know, plan it. But if there's any gap in the recovery, the company's balance sheet will take care of the difference. So I just wanted to sort of, but then to position that as like, oh, that's money gone. I think that's a, you know, for me, that's just like a very misinformed view. So you know, I took issue to it, and I went on social media to sort of like, because initially I didn't want to talk about it too much because I had to work out what I can and cannot say, right? Because we're a regulated company. I had to go check with our auditors, check with sort of our regulators, be like, okay, what can I say? Because when you're discussing your audited financials, that's more sensitive than just sort of like, you know, talking crypto prices and talking airdrops. You know, we waited a little bit, so for me, it's just sort of like, you know, I came, you know, and then when it started like, you know, and I think when some of these things come down to be like, you're trying to censor them or you're telling them not to do this, like we did no such thing. Like I don't believe in censorship. I'm a libertarian at heart. I think people should discuss things out, talk things out, you know, and then, you know, let the facts be the facts, and then we use a public forum to talk about it. So I think I have or whatever, and then talking points now. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to to share my coverage on this. And oh yeah, and this is like this like we're gonna put this out on our website. So basically, like the left side chart, you can pretty much track that on CoinGecko or Coin Market Cap, right? Like they basically publish our daily trading volume for Coins Pro, right? And then it represents and then in 2023, right, we were doing like $5 million a day, right, on Coins Pro. Now we're doing like $20 to $30 million a day on Coins Pro, right? Which basically means we're doing about $1 billion of volume. So in this quarter, like we're basically estimated doing about $3.3 billion of volume. So basically like about $1 billion a month, right? And then if you look at Coins Pro and you look at the fee rate, you're like, okay, these guys make, I don't know, 10, 20 bips on what it is. So basically our revenue in 2024 in the fourth quarter is like about close to $8 million, right? Which is like a 25% take rate on three ballpark, right? So basically like the numbers are pretty straightforward. And then if you want to do just math, just go to CoinGecko and map our trading volume, and then basically put a ballpark take rate on that, and you can basically see that grown tremendously since 2023. And what I want to say here is like this is where I think like where I'm coming from is where I wish to do more education. I think not just to our users in the Philippines, but actually I think to people who run startups, people who build startups, people who want to do startups, is that generally you're going to lose money for the first couple of years, right? Because you're investing in your building, right? But what you want is you want to have a business where you get to scale, right? Because what's the difference in my business is when I came into Coins in 2022, the app was broken. It was only up like 98%. Have tokens listed, right? It was Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, XRP. I don't even think it had USDT. It was like Bitcoin Cash. It didn't even have USDT or USDC, right? So this is 2022. This is like when I came in, right? And then what we did? We invested, right? So if you look at the losses that the company had, in my mind, those weren't losses, right? So basically, ever since I came in, I bought coins with my own money and I partnered with, but basically I put in my own money and we basically invested about 2 billion pesos into coins in 2022 and in 2023, right? To basically upgrade our entire technology infrastructure. Today, we support 30 plus blockchains. We have over 120 tokens listed. Like some of the tokens we're actually listing before Binance. We're listing before Coinbase. We're listing before OKX. We're listing before Bybit, right? Like for example, Moondang, we listed before Coinbase listed it. So you could have gotten Moondang at like, I don't know, like 10 pesos, right? and still not listed on Binance per se, right? And then we have another token that I really like. It's called Virtual, right? It's basically going to be like the launch pad for all AI agents. Like we listed that stuff like I think a couple of weeks ago, at like I think it was like $1 like 50 pesos. Like today is like $1.80, right? And I think eventually, if the big centralized exchange is listed, it's going to run even more, right? So like for me, it's like we've been building infrastructure. So I personally, right, as a business, like as a I don't know, like I'm not a sophisticated businessman, but I'm pretty smart. I know what I'm doing. Like you invest in businesses to get to a stage where you become scalable, right? What does that mean? Is that the number of employees I have last year versus this year is the same, right? The office spaces, I don't have to hire. I'm not adding any more office spaces. We moved into a really nice office last year. Like we're not adding more people other than maybe more service people and more engineers. We're not. That's it. I mean, my cost is basically office and people, right? And software cost, right? If the business increases, then obviously my technology software cost is going to increase a little bit, but it's not going to be increasing like in the same multiples of increase as my revenue. So what happens when you make these early stage investments in 2022 and 2023, and then have really bad looking income statements? Like you're going to make money when the market either swings in your favor, or in our case, the market wasn't really swinging in our favor like in the first half of the year either, right? But I think when the market really swings in your favor, I think that's when you see significant improvements. I think in our bottom line. I just want to highlight that, like, our revenue grew, I think, like 4 times versus last year. And then it actually grew quarter on quarter. And I expect it to continue to grow next year as we add more products and services next year. I think I'm going to drop a couple of things here, is that in the first quarter of next year, January, we're going to add some type of margin trading, right? It's basically for advanced trading users. but we want our users who are sophisticated, like the gentleman on here, like Nan and Chris and Java, is like you can trade with one or two. It won't be like 50x. That's crazy, right? But we will allow you to trade maybe with 2 to 3 times leverage, and then you can, and if that happens, and it happens in a bull market, I think you can actually get a boost on what you're doing. But we're gonna, it's kind of a gated thing where you have to prove that you're a sophisticated investor. There's a term, but you have to be able to prove that. But I think people can pass that competency that you can actually trade with leverage on our platform, right? Like my goal from day one is actually to, first of all, we do things the right way, right? We are a regulated business. I mean, I tell people like when FTX happened, I was like, yeah, there's regulated exchanges, there's no regulated exchanges. If shit happens on unregulated, you have to like DM the CEO to get your money back, right? If shit happens to you like on a regulated exchange, like BSP is gonna drag my ass to jail, and then you can get your money back, right? It's sort of like there's significant differences in terms of like regulated businesses and unregulated businesses. So it's just sort of like but for me, it's like, let's do things the right way. We bring innovation, but then under regulation, right? Because I think most of the people here in the Philippines are, I think, are very curious, but we're also not a very rich country, right? I think crypto is one of those things where like, let's make people rich, right? If you make the right decisions, like Bitcoin is like the fortune's formula. That was like a gift send from Satoshi, right? Like if you got in early to Bitcoin, like we have one user on our platform. That's a Bitcoin whale. I mean, he bought Bitcoin in 2016. Right? He's still holding it. Right? So there's just a lot of these stories, right? Like in the crypto world. And I have another story. Is like there's we recently listed a AI meme coin called Turbo, right? The snail coin. And then the guy that I was talking to, Limsanity, I mean, I've been talking to him about like cooperation and stuff. And then like a month or 2 months ago, is like, oh yeah, wait, in case you know, I'm moving back to the Philippines. I was an OFW in Saudi Arabia for 10 years. I was like, if you're an OFW in Saudi Arabia, how the heck are you like doing, you're like the community manager for Turbo? I'm like, he's like, you can do it because it's crypto, right? You don't need to physically be anywhere, right? You can do it online, right? As long as you just like, bull post something and then join a community early. There's opportunities in crypto that does not exist anywhere in the world. Right, or anywhere in the sort of like you don't need to be a coder to make money in a technology. Like I don't think doesn't exist in AI, it doesn't exist in space rockets, it doesn't exist in anything, but in crypto it actually does, right? Like the time you put in, you do actually get asymmetrical reward on that. So I think that for me, it's like I'm on a mission to make that opportunity available, I think, to everyone in the Philippines, but we want to do it in a safe, regulated, and a fashion, right? And I think if you look at the app, we will continue to make improvements in the app. And I think once we get more regulatory clarity on like 2 products, I'm really excited for first half of next year. I think one is the margin trading product, and the other product is actually PHPC. What I want to do for PHPC is I want each person here to be able to run their own FX dealer. I'm not getting in trouble. It's like if you have PHPC and you have USDC, I want you to put that in a DeFi protocol such that you can earn fee income when people use it for FX, right? That's why I've been on a couple of shows with Coinbase, because they have the base chain they're trying to push, right? And then I was talking about we're going to bring FX to Solana, right? And I think that's sort of the vision that I have, such that hey, let's create more opportunities for people. Right. Let's create more way that you can control your own financials and generate opportunities for yourself. So I think for me, and the other thing I said is like, one of the first thing I said is like, I want to bring high quality projects, I think tokens to our users. And we've done that. I will continue to do that. The next thing that I want to do is basically let's products to our users. Let's bring the on-chain world, I think, through coins to the off-chain, to the users who are mostly still in the off-chain world. And I think that mission doesn't change, right? But one thing that I think it does change a little bit. I think when Ron started coins, it was like all about financial inclusion. But I think with crypto now, we can actually move on from financial inclusion to financial empowerment. And I think that's really, really, really key. So thank you guys for hearing me out on this. And then we'll run that chart and then other places. So yeah, thank you.
Wei, thank you so much. Chris, thank you so much. Man, thank you so much. this is truly an exciting time in the market. It's only gonna get faster. We're only gonna go higher, and I can't wait to see where all of us, will use our own platforms to take, the Filipinos closer and into crypto. So wait, Chris, man, thank you for joining us. For tonight's Community Wednesday on Bitcoin hitting 100K last week, our market outlook on adoption and why adoption is inevitable. So thank you so much to all of our viewers. And I guess, stay tuned to our social media because we will be having a 12 days of crypto Christmas on coins.ph. And we do have a
how much money are we giving away, Rafa?
well, we have 7 million in the prize pool. So that's crazy.
It could go up as well, right? Because we're actually giving away.
I mean,
higher.
Merry Christmas, everyone, so let's have fun with it. And that will be starting from December 14th to 25th. So stay tuned to our social media channels for the full mechanics, for those promotions. So again, thank you so much, Wei, for making the time for our community today. Chris for joining us, and Man for joining us on this chat for Bitcoin. This is Jaffa JC Cadiz, Community Manager of Coins. It's been a pleasure, Coinmunity, and I'll see you again next week for Coinmunity Wednesdays.
Chris, I'll get papers.
What's that? What?
I said I'll get our general counsel to send over some adoption papers you can sign.
Yeah.
Take care, man.
All right, guys. See you next time.
Man.